All right. Well, first of all, let me say welcome to everyone to Advocacy Hour. I want to start off by just saying thank you to Shamika again for being willing to do this. My name is Rita Stevens, and I'm the founder of Silent Voices. And Silent Voices is a nonprofit organization that provides advocacy and support for families that have special needs children. One of the ways that we do that is connecting parents with people like Shamika to help bridge the gap between the information that you have and the information that you need. So if this is your first time visiting the channel, we encourage you to please like and subscribe. And Shamika, again, thank you for jumping on and being willing to pour in this information into the parents and really help them have a voice. But before we get started, would you mind just giving a quick introduction of yourself, and then we'll jump right in the topic for today.
All right, Rita, thank you for having me. As Rita said, my name is Shamika Allen. I'm the owner of Personalized Learning Solutions. We are a special ed advocacy firm based in Texas. I help parents all over the state of Texas and then outside of state of Texas and other states, mostly in the Southeast, a few East Coast, and I'm expanding out to Arizona. In addition to that, I'm on staff with COPA, which is the top nonprofit for parents and advocates and attorneys, Council of Parent and Attorney Advocates. I teach in their special ed advocacy training classes. So between advocating in IEP or in Texas ARD meetings, I'm usually teaching other people how to do this.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. So, guys, as you can see, she's well equipped to make sure you have the right information. Today, the topic is going to be about goals. So we know that we have kind of two sets of parents. We have parents that might have been, preparing for the kids to go into school, and then parents where you have kids that are already in school. And we want to make sure we share information with you so that you too are equipped and you understand how the goals are created, designed, purpose, how you should be tracking progress and stuff like that. So let's start with maybe goal development and how they're developed and who develops those goals.
All right, so goals are developed by your child's special ed service providers, which are teachers, occupational therapists, physical therapists, adapted PE teachers. Each person creates their own goal for their area. And you might ask, what do they know to make goals about? Well, the foundation of the IEP is data. The star of the IEP is what we call the present levels, and every state calls them a little different. In Texas, we call it the PLAF, present levels of academic achievement and functional performance. Some people call it the PLOP, present levels of performance, but I just say present levels. And the present levels is basically the story of your child, how they've done over the last calendar year, because IEPs are reviewed annually, which is every 364 days. You may say, Shamika, there's 365 days in a year, but IEPs have to be reviewed before the last annual date. So they're every 364 days. So for example, if your child's IEP was on March 5th, 2024, it has to take place by March 4th, 2025. So in the IEP, the first area you're going to go over is the present levels. It tells how your child has done it academically, behavioral, function, social, what accommodations they're using, how they did on state tests, progress on their goals. And so that's the star of the IEP. The foundation of the present levels is data. So any deficits or identified needs must be worked on in the IEP. It can be in form of goals, services, or accommodations must be addressed. Any need must be addressed in the remaining parts of the IEP. And so goals is one way you work on deficits and needs. So that's where the goals come from. They come from data and the present levels and identified needs and deficits. And they just don't have to be academic. It can be academic, behavioral, social, and functional needs. So that's where you get your data, and that's where you get the subject area, the behavior or the skill we want to work on for the goal.
So let's say, you mentioned that those goals are typically created by all those different service providers. Is there ever a time where a kid can have too many goals? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, you can have too many. There's no magic number of goals, but as you look at the child's present levels and where their deficits are, you want to make sure you are addressing I'm not going to say most important, but critical skills.
Mm-hmm.
So a child's IEP, one goal, okay, that's probably not enough, but 25 goals, that might be, too many. So there's got to be a balance in the goals. You got to look at what are the critical skills and the need at that time that the student is exhibiting. And like I said, every skill or need doesn't have to be addressed with a goal. It can be addressed by an accommodation or a service. It's just that need or that deficit is identified in the present levels, and then it's addressed in the rest of the IEP.
Absolutely. And one thing that it makes me think about too, just as a parent that also has a special needs child, is that it's also important as a parent that if it's not written as a goal for the school, it doesn't mean that you can't work on it at home.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I
That's
think
right.
that's important to note as well. So just
Yes.
because you don't see it written as a goal for the school doesn't mean that you can't have your own goals for your child as well.
So the needs and deficits are addressed as you do your parental concerns in the present levels. Anything that you feel is a deficit or a parental concern, you want to make sure it's addressed, and it can be addressed in the form of a goal. If you feel your child has reading deficits and they're not on grade level for reading, then you want to make sure that there is a goal to address, reading deficits, decoding, and things like that. So, like I said, there's not a standard of how many goals, and it's not by disability. They don't say if kids who have autism need 15 goals. There's
Mhm.
nothing like that. Just want to make sure your goals are addressing the critical needs and deficits. And like I said, every need and deficit may not need a goal. It maybe can be addressed with a service and an accommodation. But most times when you have a service like physical therapy, occupational therapy, special ed counseling, speech therapy, there's going to be goals associated with that service. And
Yeah,
then you can have your
absolutely.
academic goals and your functional goals, things like that. So now, Rita, they talk about what goal they must say. Okay, you're saying deficits and needs. So how's a goal written? What is a goal? What's in a goal?
Mm-hmm.
So in a goal, you have four main parts in a goal. You have the time frame, we have what we call conditions or givens, what we give the student to help them work on the goal. You have the behavior or skill the student's working on, and you have well-defined mastery criteria, okay? Because you want well-defined goals because like I said earlier, in the present levels, you can talk about how students, present levels can include how students made progress on their goals. So you
Mm-hmm.
want well-defined goals with well-defined mastery criteria because those goals and that data goes into the next present levels and helps develop the next IEP. So I
So
said,
what would potentially be like a example of a poorly written goal versus a
um,
goal that has those four components? What would
so
that look like?
four components again are time frame, conditions or givens, the skill or behavior, and mastery criteria. So poor goal will be in 36 instructional weeks, Johnny will read at a first grade level. Okay, so there's no given in that goal. Is he given a book at instructional level, independent level, and there's no mastery criteria. The only thing it
Mhm.
has was the time frame and the behavior skill. So
Okay.
to make that goal better, you can say in 36 instructional weeks, when giving a first grade text at his reading level, Johnny will read the text with only 5 mistakes in 4 out of 5 opportunities across 2 grading periods. So that's a very detailed goal. And I've told you the time frame. I've told you Johnny, he's going to get a book at his reading level,
Mm-hmm.
first grade book. He's got to read with no more than 5 mistakes in, I think I said 4 out of 5 opportunities
Mm-hmm.
across 2 grading periods. So that's allowed several data observations and data points for the teacher. And that's going to allow you to show mastery over time. I like to add 2 grading periods to my goals because if you think about it, 2 grading periods, if you're on 6 weeks, that's 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
When you're collecting data on interventions and things for a goal and for IEPs and for students, 8 to 12 weeks is a good time frame to collect data. So
Okay.
if the student has to master that goal and they have to do it over 2 grading periods consecutively, that's 12 weeks. If you're in a district that has 9 week grading periods, that's 18 weeks. That's like half the school year. So
Mm-hmm.
it's allowing for several data points several teacher observations, several chances for the teacher to make progress, to report progress, and is allowing the student to keep practicing. What you don't want to see happen when you're, we're going to talk about goal progress, but what you don't want to see is for a teacher to progress to be reported at the beginning of the school year, master the goal, they do it one time, they say mastered, and they don't work on it anymore throughout the school year. So you want to have multiple opportunities, like you can even say this, they must get 80% on 4 out of 5 opportunities over 2 consecutive grading periods. So what that means is there's 4 out of 5 trials. And 4 of those trials, that student has to score 80%. So if they only score 80%, 3 out of 5, and then they have to do that over 2 consecutive grading periods. So it's very detailed mastery criteria, and it allows for mastery over time. So, and for the student to keep working on the goal.
So quick question about goals. So let's say a child has, I'm making this up, 10 goals. Is it the norm that that child will work on each of those 10 goals every day? Or do you see where maybe the child may not work on those 10 goals every day and they're working on these 5? Is that okay? Just as an
It,
expectation for a parent that that's okay.
it is okay. And so it's supposed to be, remember, students, we say special ed students, but we just say students who receive special ed services because they're still general ed students first. They're getting access to the general ed curriculum. So everything they're learning, they're going to be learning more than just what's in their IEP. So they're still getting access to the general ed curriculum and working on their deficits through their goals. So they may work on certain number of goals and introduce them and work on those and then introduce more goals. But that's the reason you want to have that mastery criteria that allows mastery over time. So when a student's working on, say, 2 reading goals and they've really mastered them, and the teacher's taking data and they're introducing 2 more goals they're going to work on, then they could be working on all 4 goals, but they're still working on, and the student can still show their mastery of the previous 2 goals. So they can work on them in chunks, they can work on them all at once throughout the school day. It's just however the classroom teacher wants to do it.
And how it's set up. Yeah, I just thought that was really important because, as a parent, let's say you're looking at it and you see all these goals. If you look at a progress report, a daily progress report, then I don't want them to be surprised that, hey, they didn't work on these goals, but that's the norm. That's
And
okay.
that's why the time frame says in 36 instructional weeks, that's a whole school year, or by the next annual IEP meeting, or in Texas by the next annual ARD, or if a goal is really not specific, they only want to work on that goal a certain time frame in 18 weeks and 24 weeks. A time frame can be anything. So you don't mean you have to work on it every single day, but the time frame dictates when the student should have that goal mastered.
Okay. So speaking of time frame, because I think that's important, do you want a goal to ever be for a year or for 2 years
Okay,
or
first, goals should not be repeated. Not saying the skill can't be worked on, but that's the reason you get adequate progress and you get an updated progress report at the annual meeting. In preparation for the annual IEP meeting, you ask for updated progress report. You ask for draft of new goals, and you compare what goals have been mastered, what goals have not been mastered, and you don't want to continue the goal word for word. You don't want to see goals repeated over and over in IEP, but you want to see the skills still being worked on the student hasn't mastered. So I'll give a quick, easy example, sight words. Say a student's supposed to learn 60 sight words in the 36 instructional weeks, and they learn 45. Well, they haven't mastered that goal. Well, you don't want to put the same, you don't want to do 60 again. You want to use the strength of them learning the 45, and you might want to make it 80 in the next. So we're still, sight words is repeated in the IEP, but it's not the same goal. We've utilized the student's strength and their progress, and we are moving them forward. So they're gonna have to maintain their 45 and add another 35 or 40 to that, and 80. So you don't want to see IEP goals repeated word for word. You want to see skills. And if you look at a progress report and the student has not mastered the goal, it should be contained in some form or fashion in new IEP goals. IEP goals just don't disappear in the iCloud. If the student doesn't master it, it's just like, oh, it's gone. So
Yeah.
that's the reason you want to get that updated progress report before the annual meeting. You want to get a copy of draft goals. You basically want to sit down and have them side by side go through the updated progress report, mark the ones that are mastered, highlight them, circle, look at the ones that are continued or not mastered, and
Mhm.
those skills that are being continued or not mastered should be continued some form or fashion in the new draft goals.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting and good how you actually said that, that there's a way to keep a goal, but also still make progress for that child. So even though they
Increase the
haven't
goal.
mastered it, you still can continue to make increased progress, you know?
Mhm.
So you don't have
So
to keep that same thing. So we talked about tracking goals a little bit because you mentioned that earlier. Is there additional information that a parent should just kind of be aware of when we're talking about goals for the year and how they should track that, how often they should ask for that progress?
all right, so by law, progress monitoring is one of the, I call it 12 parts of an IEP.
Mm-hmm.
So you should get a progress report minimally every time you get a report card. So a report card and an IEP progress report are measuring two different things. A report card measures how your child is doing progress in the general education curriculum, and your IEP progress report is progress on the IEP goals. So I tell my clients, your child gets two report cards. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, when school districts send out your child's case manager, special education teacher, you should get a progress report. Now, it may not be the exact same day because we want detailed and data in the progress reports. So it may be a couple days before or after report cards, but if it's the first, you're waiting for the first grading period's progress report and you're like 3 or 4 weeks into the second grading period, that's too long. You need to ask. So minimally, you're supposed to get them in concurrence with report cards, but if you want them sooner, just like an IEP meeting I had earlier, had last week, parent wanted progress every 3 weeks. So she's not getting an IEP progress report every 3 weeks, but she's gonna get a report, kind of an email with details of the progress every 3 weeks. So you can establish a different progress monitoring timeline in the IEP meeting, but minimally by law, they must be sent home at the same time as the report cards. So if your school district is on a 6 week grading period, you should
Mm-hmm.
get that progress report 6 times. If it's on a 4 week, 9 week grading period, you should get it 9 times. So a lot of parents, I meet clients and I meet parents, and they have no earthly idea they're supposed to get progress reports. It is in the law that progress monitoring is one of the core tenets of IDEA. That's how we know how students are doing. It's
Wow.
based on data. It's used to develop the present levels, which is used to develop the IEP. So if you have not been getting your child's progress reports, you need to contact your child's case manager, special ed teacher. School's been going on for 6 or 7 weeks now in most places. You should know who your child's case manager or contact teacher is, and you need to get a copy of past progress reports from last school year if you don't have them. And we're coming up in many places, depending on when we started school. And if your district is on a 6 or 9 week, you're coming up on your first progress report of the school year. So you know you're supposed to be getting it. So as soon as report cards start to come out, you should be expecting an IEP progress report. And so, Reed, I think next we need to talk about what kind of data should be in those progress reports.
Yeah.
All right, so these school districts use what we call IEP management systems. So they're gonna mark progress is they might use some codes like mastered, just not introduced, continued, a C for continued, D for dismissed. That's not all you want to see. You
Okay.
want to get some actual data. You want progress to be reported to you in the way the goal is written. So if the goal says a student will do something in trials or percentages, you want the progress to be in trials. So if the progress is in percentages and the goal asks for trials, that's not going to correlate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you want to make sure there's usually a space on the progress reports where they can put notes and information. They have
Mm-hmm.
to mark a progress code. M for mastered, C continued, N not introduced, D discontinued, making progress, MP. It just depends on the IEP management system. But there is a place for comments and notes, and that's where that quantifiable data. So if the goal is in trials, you want it reported. This student is supposed to do something 4 out of 5 trials or get 70% on 4 out of 5 trials. You want to see in the comments, the student's getting 70% on 2 trials right now. You
Mm-hmm.
want data. That data is used to see if the child is going to be able to meet that goal. Because remember, goals must be ambitious. They
Mm-hmm.
must be challenging, but they
Mm-hmm.
must be goals that a child can achieve in a calendar year, not a school year. because some IEPs cover 2 school years. Remember,
Mhm.
IEPs cover calendar year. So
Mhm.
your child may have 2 grade levels covered in an IEP, but goals must be where a student can achieve over a year. And you want to see that data. So if you're getting your progress report and you see the students not making progress, one, you need to go back to the IEP table and discuss revising the goals. Okay, so if you get 2, 3 grading periods in and there's still no great progress, students not really completing the trials, the percentages is low on the goals,
Mhm.
you need to go back to the IEP table, request a meeting, and revise the goal. Yes, we want ambitious goals. That's from the Andrew F. Supreme Court decision in 2017 that talked about no matter the child's circumstance, they should have ambitious and challenging goals. So you don't want them too ambitious. You want them to make sure they can achieve them in a year, but you also don't want to make it too easy. So that's the kind of data you want to see. You just don't want to see the C or the M. You want to get some notes and comments. And if you feel your IEP committee is not going to do that, you discuss that at your annual meeting. Discuss with the team what kind of progress you want to see on the progress reports.
Oh, that's really good. So she really just gave you guys like two really good nuggets, I think.
Yes.
Well, really three. The first nugget that I heard was that the progress report is different than the report card if your
Yes.
child is receiving special education services. So you should be receiving both of those. The second nugget that I heard is that you need that data to really have a voice for your child. So you need to know, how does this correlate, how the goal is written. So if it's supposed to be 3 out of 5, but on the progress report, we're constantly seeing like, okay, you guys tried this one time, or
Or they report progress and percentage,
or they
80%.
report, yeah, progress or percentage, then you'll kind of know what to do there. And then the third nugget that I heard that really helps you guys have a voice is that you have the ability in your IEP meeting to talk about, okay, how often do I want to receive progress? Not necessarily that report, but just if I need to receive it every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks or whatever that is, you have the ability to ask those things in your IEP meeting. So I
And
think
then
that's really good.
if your child's not making progress on goals, you call an IEP meeting and let's revisit the goals. Maybe they need to be given more conditions in the goal. Maybe they need a graphic organizer to help them write a paragraph. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they need sentence starters to help them write a paragraph. So you can
Mm-hmm.
may go in and revise the goal. There are times you may have to dismiss the goal and start over and rewrite it. But if your child is not making progress and you get into 2 or 3 grading periods and they're not making progress, you need to revisit and come to the IEP table and talk to the teacher. Remember, you can go talk to your child's teacher. That's just a parent-teacher conference.
Mm-hmm.
But to change goals and to really discuss if there's more accommodations needed or services, that needs to be a official IEP meeting.
And that's really key too. Like you have both options. It doesn't always have to be an IEP meeting.
Mhm.
It can be just a conversation with the teacher, right?
Mhm.
And as a parent, you have to know you do have that right to do that. You can send a quick email, hey, can we have a meeting? I want to talk about these things. And you said something else that just stuck out to me too, because I was going to ask this question is, how long should you wait? So I think you were saying 2 grading periods
I'm
to
just
just
saying
kind of
that,
see.
but anytime you have an issue, don't
Mm-hmm.
wait till your annual meeting to address it. As far
Yeah.
as goals, you want to give them time to collect data and to
Mm-hmm.
see. So like if it's been 1 grading period, there's been no progress made, that may be a little too soon.
Yeah.
But if you're getting into 2 and 3, you're coming up on half a school year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the progress is not being made. Maybe the goal needs to be rewritten, adjusted, or more accommodations added, services, more conditions given to the student in the goal. So you don't want to wait till the end of the school year and go to the annual meeting and report that your child made no progress on any goals.
Yeah.
And it should due diligence, a school district, a teacher, a speech therapist, a service provider. If they see the child's not making progress, they should do their due diligence and they can call a meeting and say, hey, contact the parents, say, hey, we need to have an IEP meeting. There's some discussions we need to have on goals. So as a parent and a school district can call an IEP meeting at any time. Legally,
Mhm.
you have to have one annually. But once you have your annual meeting, any meeting you have after that are review meetings.
That's really good. So now that we know about how the goals are formed, how they're tracked, and the progress is actually tracked, and what parents should be getting. Guys, remember that. What tips do you have for parents of what they should be doing once the goals are formed? So once everybody has kind of agreed upon the goals, what things can they be doing
One
as a
thing you want to make
parent?
sure you're doing is you're getting the progress reports. Okay. And once you get them, you're keeping them, you're storing them, you're gonna put them in a binder, you got your stuff organized, you're getting them, make sure you're reading them. And then if you have any questions about them, make sure you're contacting your child's special ed teacher, their contact teacher, their case manager. You should know who that person is by now. Send them an email. You want to do everything in writing and have documentation. And
Mhm,
you can schedule a parent teacher conference and go up and talk to them. But after every meeting, you may want to follow it up with an email. If it's a Zoom meeting or a phone call or in person, say this is what we talked about in a meeting. But you want to make sure you're getting those progress reports. Same thing with IEPs. This happens a lot of time. Parents go through the IEP process, they get the IEP, they go to the meeting. It's after the meeting they don't do a lot of things.
mhm,
So get a copy of the progress report, read it, get a copy of the IEP, make sure you read it. And if
mhm,
you have any issues with anything or you feel your child's not making progress, you reach out to get a meeting scheduled. If you're that parent who wants to work on goals at home, you can
mhm,
do that. You want to keep your own data. You can do data collection sheets, like in Word doc or Excel. You can just use the notes on your phone
mhm,
and write anecdotal, but you can work on your child's IEP goals at home. You keep your own data. Parents can take data, like I said, data collection sheets. They can do anecdotal records with their writing. You can
mhm,
do, we all have our phones. You can do audio and video recordings.
mhm,
Um, if your child is having a tutor, they have outside services, share those goals. This math tutor, share those IEP goals related to math with the tutor. The tutor can be collecting data. The
mhm.
tutor can write up how the child's doing progress. That information from the tutor can become part of the present levels.
Yeah. And I
So it's
think, that's really good that you say that because um it helps you have a voice as a parent. If you read the information, then you're more aware
mhm,
of what has been written, how your child is progressing, and what you want to see as a parent. But like Shamika said, it's very important that you read the progress
read it,
reports and you read the information. And if you don't understand it,
reach
um,
out to the teacher.
reach out to the teacher, but make sure you do that in writing. And that writing is really going to help you because we can't remember everything,
That's right.
right?
That's
And
right.
so you have a way that you can go back and say, yeah, I did send them an email. Let me go back and read through the email, see what the response was. So then a year later, or whenever you do that next IEP meeting, it's so much easier for you as a parent because you have stuff in a written format. This is what was said, this is what was discussed, and you can just kind of quickly bring it back out. So I think that's the easy way for them to have a
And you
voice and understand what's going on.
And to adequately have a voice and for you to feel confident, you want to make sure you're organizing your paperwork,
Mhm.
your binder, 3-ring binder, or you can do electronic with folders. I also advise that you get a separate email account for just communicating with the school so it's
Mhm.
not mixed up in your personal email. There's so many times I'm doing consultations with clients. I'll say, well, when was your last IEP meeting? They're like, oh, well, it's in my email. Let me look at the date. Then they can't find it during the consultation. So one way, the special ed process is stressful, but one way to make it less stressful is to organize your paperwork. So you
Mhm.
can do 3-ring binder with tabs. You can have a tab for IEPs, progress reports, evaluations, work samples. If you're
Mhm.
technology savvy and you want to do it online, you can use something like Google Drive, Dropbox, Box.com. They all give you enough free storage and you can make individual folders
Yeah.
for that. But you also want to have an email for communicating with the school and you want it to be something that's acceptable. You don't want to have Hot Girl 97 at yahoo.com communicating with the school. So that will help. Organization helps. A lot of parents feel stressed about the process, but they're stressed because they're disorganized.
Yeah.
So getting organized and making that binder, making that electronic storage, having an email. So when you get those progress reports, You're asking for them, you're getting them, you're
Mhm.
reading them, and then you're filing them away in your binder, or you're scanning them and saving them in folders on your computer or electronic storage, online cloud storage, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
But we are coming up on the first progress reporting period right now. If you've been in school 6 weeks and 9 weeks. So if you've never ever gotten a progress report in years past, you need to make sure when that report card comes home, you can send an email to your child's special ed teacher, contact teacher, case manager, whoever that is, and say, hey, I'm looking forward to reading my child's IEP progress report. When do you think that report will be sent home? Ask for it if you want to. Paper copy, you can put in your child's backpack, and then ask for it electronically, or ask for it to be sent to you electronically. Some districts use an IEP management system that has a parent portal, and they upload those documents into the parent uh, portal. So that's where you can get it from, but ask for it to be sent home and file it, read it. You want to make sure you're reading those progress reports before the annual meeting.
Mhm.
You want to make sure you're up to date on how your child has performed. So before an annual meeting, you want to go through and reread the IEP. You want to reread the evaluation, and you want to read the progress reports.
Mhm. And guys, if for some reason you're reading something like she said and you don't understand it, or it's like, I'm not an educator, I don't know what this is. There's so many resources out there where you can look it up on Google. You can reach out to an advocate like Shamika, where you can at least understand the terminology, right? But you're gonna feel so much more comfortable going into a meeting where you are already kind of versed in where your child is,
Mhm.
versus totally being blindsided and you're just kind of listening to what everybody is saying. So she has like provided some really good nuggets on just how to manage your child's goals. Like, how do you work with the school to do that, making sure you get the report card, making sure you get the progress report, making sure there's data in there. And I heard
And
something
making
because I
sure
know I have to
before
do it,
every annual, you ask for a draft copy of the goals.
and
So you're
ask for a
prepared
draft
to.
copy of the goals. And also something that was really big to me, because I didn't do this, but it is really helpful if you have that separate email, because we, as parents of special needs kids, we're dealing with a lot of people, right? So we have physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, doctors, so many different things that are coming into your email. And if you have that email, like she said, it's going to reduce your stress level. Because you know exactly where to go, what email it was sent out of, and where they sent it back to. So it really reduces your stress level, and it helps you have a voice for your child. Takes a little edge off, I
When
think.
you're better organized, you can feel more confident going into meetings. You can articulate yourself better. So it's
Mm-hmm.
always, have your routine before your annual meetings, stay organized, get your paperwork. Anything you don't have, get ready the night before or a couple of days before. Don't we wait until the morning of your meeting to try to read the progress reports or review the IEP.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and one thing I'm gonna say with IEP meetings, go to the meeting in the way that's more comfortable for you. A lot of districts are back in person doing meetings, but if you like virtual, that's still an option. Nowhere in the federal law does it say IEP meetings have to be in person. It says they must happen annually.
Mm-hmm.
So when the school pandemic hit and school closures, uh, virtual became a known thing. It's always over the telephone, was always conference call. So you can still do virtual meetings. If that makes you feel more comfortable, then you tell them, you want your annual meeting, you want your meetings virtually, and the school districts have to, oblige that.
I
So
think
I
that's
had a meeting
really good.
yesterday, and I think it was the first one they've had all year virtually. People are going in person, and it's for a client. I'm no longer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and she still wanted me to attend. So she attended virtually and I attended virtually. So it's still an option. That will help your stress level. Attend the meeting the way you want to. If you want to be in the room with everyone or you want to be virtually, and organize your documents. Stay organized and review your documents. So the key nuggets you need to take away is it's progress reporting time. Report card's about to come out. You need to be asking for that progress report in about a week or two.
Okay. That's really good. Any other just nuggets that you want to share? I mean, you dropped a bunch of them today, but any other nuggets for the parents that you just want to share?
One, you're
If
not in this
not, you might have
alone.
covered them.
Not alone, reach out for help. I have a private parent Facebook group called Special Education IEP and 504 Plan Support Group. Um, Reach out to your state parent information training centers, your PTIs. Don't go through this alone. There's all kinds of parent Facebook groups. Look in your area. Like I said, my website is www.personalizedlearningforall.com. You can join my parent Facebook group. There's all kinds of resources and questions asked and answered on a daily basis, but don't do it alone. Facebook has helped a lot of parents. There's a lot of support groups and where you can meet people and you can ask questions. So just don't feel like you're going through the process by yourself.
Yeah, I think that's important. And we're gonna make sure that we include Shamika's information in the notes so that you guys, if you need to reach out, I encourage you to do so. Because like she said, you don't have to go through it alone. And that's just another way for you to feel comfortable to say that you have a voice for your
And
child.
behind
So
Rita, it says your voice matters. So
your voice
parental, your
matters.
voice
And it
matters
really
in your
does matter.
child development of your child's IEP and in their education.
And so, Shamika, thank you so much for joining us for Advocacy Hour. And again, we're going to put that information in the notes for you guys to reach out to Shamika if you need some help. And until next time,
All right, thanks.
guys, later.